Oh boy. It's the old king of taking down mist monsters. This was the very first weapon I ever really discovered kind of on my own that was as powerful as this is. So, I don't know if this happens to every Save the World player, but I mean, everybody takes advice from other players and they kind of learn along as they go, etc., etc. But this weapon, it was kind of Cthulhu and we were tinkering with different weapons, and we were like, hey, is the Spyglass any good? And then he started leveling it up, and then I started leveling it up, and we were like, whoa, this is really, really good. And this is before we'd ever heard about the bundle bus or anything that was really prominent and effective at taking down mist monsters. This weapon stood out alone as just a powerhouse. So today we're going to be talking about the Spyglass, and I have been wanting to talk about this for months. We discovered this in late 2018. Oh man, when was the road trip event? It was a long time ago now, almost a year. But by the time that we had discovered it, that event was long gone. Few people had picked this up from the shop, but as I speak, I do believe it is available in the Year 2 Birthday Llamas. So if you have this weapon and you didn't even know that it was in your inventory, or you have the old Betsy, these are the same gun, I'll talk about that in a second, I would highly recommend watching the rest of this video. So the old Betsy is the exact same way in every single way, except that it doesn't have a scope, and its range is 10,240 instead of 25,000. I stand in a very, well, from the opinions I've heard, I stand alone as someone who prefers scopes. I like it, honestly. It is one of the best weapons, it's the best weapon I've ever seen for just sniping out mist monsters while you're defending something. The neon sniper comes close. It doesn't quite pack as much of a punch, but it does, shoot through walls, which is really, really great for tagging mist monsters for that reperk challenge. But I like the Spyglass because of the pow that it makes when you shoot it, and the fact that it just one-shots any mist monster from about a 100 zone or lower. And that is the bad news. You will almost never see me using this on stream anymore because of quite a few factors. First of all, I almost always carry a Baron. I mean, just a 42% movement boost is just not something I like going without. My main weapon is never a Spyglass, for obvious reasons. And then my third weapon is either Coconuts, because Blast from the Past is amazing, or it's some kind of rocket launcher. Before we had amazing movement weapons, I would run a main weapon, a rocket, and a sniper 24/7. But that just doesn't really work for me anymore. And the other thing to mention right off the bat is this thing has a 1-to-1 durability. So if you go Shadow Shard, which you absolutely should, I made mine Obsidian before I knew what I was doing, and I even emailed Epic to get it switched over to Shadow Shard, because Shadow Shard Sunbeam is the way you want to go, because it's a high-powered single-shot weapon. Durability doesn't matter if you're not one-shotting the mist monsters. It is a 1-to-1, so when you have 300 shots, it means you have 300 shots. 300 durability is 300 shots. And that doesn't last insanely long unless you're saving this for mist monsters alone. It's not something you want to spam at a mini-boss. It's not worth the fatties. This is for Zappy Faces, Takers, and Smashers. Now, I'm going to just kind of squeeze this in the middle of the video, but my advice for mist monsters is for Zappy Faces, just shoot them in the head. They'll die nice and easy. Takers, if you can get a front-on headshot on the face, that's great, but their hitbox is very, very wonky, and if they're just sitting idle, shooting them in the back of the head tends to work pretty well, and you want to aim a little higher than lower here. They are very tough to hit out of the sky. If they're flying sideways, try to hit them on like the cheek or the front of their face, otherwise you won't get the headshot bonus. And that's my best advice. If you're on console, good luck. If you're on PC, this will be great training. This is kind of a skill weapon because you're aiming for the head here, all right? You got to hit those shots. For a Smasher, that little tiny head is almost always only accessible from the front, so this might not always be the best weapon to use. In zones where it's applicable, 94 zones, 100 zones, and lower, it's usually 2 on the low end, 3 shots to kill a Smasher on the high end, and then past 100 zones, I'll talk about that now. So that's where I was getting at earlier is the bad news. Is like the first part is I don't have room for it in my inventory, and the second part is I'm a power 131 with maximum damage that you can get as far as I'm aware. It just doesn't one-shot enemies past the 100 zones. If I can illustrate this on the map here, I've got some footage you guys can check out here. You can see that it doesn't one-shot anything in the 100 zones while I'm solo, and if I have a group, I think if they're boosting me, I can one-shot up to 108 zones, but if it's like a 108 4-player, it just won't work anymore. And then you can see in the 94 zones and lower, it'll take them right out with a single shot, which is fantastic and my favorite way to use this weapon. But yeah, past that, it leaves them at 1 HP, and it's just kind of a bummer because that's half the map, you guys. All of this, it just doesn't make sense to use a Spyglass, because if it can't one-shot a Mist Monster, then, I mean, almost any other weapon is better at that point. I like standing on the defense and just taking them out one by one by one by one by one, even though, there are a lot of different ways to do that, but it's a very fun thing to do if you like being a sniper. So yeah, I used to use this weapon a lot more. It was my first 4-star weapon and my first 5-star weapon. It's a powerhouse. If you are not high level twine and you're in Canny or Plankerton or Stonewood or early twine, pick this weapon up and make it gold. And there are two things to say on this. I opt for double reload. To reload your shot directly impacts how many shots you can get off, and 2 reloads is definitely preferred. However, if you're in those lower zones or you're kind of a lower level player, adding this damage perk helps a ton. It is a very, very good way to go. That will absolutely, tip the scales and allow you to headshot in one hit when you normally couldn't. And then, of course, double headshot, because you want to maximize that huge headshot multiplier. And the conversation that I am happy to have, crit rating and crit damage, why don't you? This thing fires 1 shot at a time, and you have to reload between every shot. And it has a 15% base crit chance. Maxed out, you'll have about a 43% chance to crit, and I would never recommend gambling with every bullet with a sniper like this. It just doesn't make sense. It's not something you want to do. You don't want to be aiming at a zappy face and just kind of crossing your fingers that it headshots. Absolutely not. You want to crossing your fingers that it one-shots. You want to put everything you got into headshot damage just so that you can assure that you're going to take out whatever you're shooting at. And then also I have seen some builds that use impact, so reload and impact. I'm going to sound naive here, but I mean, I did the whole Frost Knight thing. I've done those higher level challenges. I've been playing with this weapon for a very long time. I don't really see where impact is useful day to day. Maybe in a specific circumstance you'll want that. This weapon does have a massive impact amount. A lot of people use the old Betsy, just kind of like a cannon. You can do that. That's obviously an option, but not something I personally use or totally recommend. And then lastly, something that I think would be slightly controversial is physical. I've seen a ton of people make these weapons energy. While I can't specifically say that that's a bad idea, you're usually using this for mist monsters. And mist monsters are an interesting case, because zappy faces and takers will never be elemental unless it's an event or they change something fundamental to the game. And smashers, honestly, if you got an elemental smasher in front of you, you probably shouldn't be tickling it with a sniper. Just pull out a high DPS weapon and take care of the smasher. I almost never recommend using a spyglass on a smasher, even if it's physical. And then, of course, because those guys are always physical, you want that 24% extra damage that you get from physical weapons, because all elements will do 100% of the total damage plus 20%. Physical does 100% plus 44. So if you're using this for mist monsters, physical is absolutely the way to go. And that's it. That is the best perks for what I consider to be the one true sniper in Fortnite Save the World. As I understand it, it is the hardest hitting sniper in the game, second only to a sniper that I don't even consider to be a sniper. And if that's, I can find it down here, the Yeoman or the Yemen. I don't actually know how to pronounce this thing, and I also can't seem to find it. But it's a sniper that I'm sure you've heard of, and it kind of shoots like a javelin projectile. It's not exactly the easiest thing to use. I don't like this. I don't like it at all. It's not unusable, and you can, if you know more than I do, spec it up and use this instead. But no. The Spyglass beats it in just sheer range. I think they have the same range, but it doesn't have any drop off, so you can just put it in the crosshair, pull your trigger, and take out a mist monster from way off. And that is maybe not helpful during the mission, but something I personally enjoy a ton. And I don't think there's any other single shot snipers in the game besides this one or the Yemen. So that's why I say I think it's the only true bolt action or sniper in the entire game, and it's a damn good one at that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have the schematic. I hope you're watching this just out of curiosity and you end up digging this thing out. If you do, let me know. I'd love to hear that kind of stuff. If you have any feedback on the video and what I might have missed, what I might have gotten wrong, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day. Okay, yeah, I finally did Spyglass, huh? You guys should check out that recommended video. I'm sure it's amazing. Oh, look at that. Look at the patrons up here. These guys support me every single month, and I appreciate these guys. So I put them at that little spot at the end of my video, and thank you.